What's going on, everybody? B. Scott, and I'm here with
Godzilla.
And on today's show, it's fantasy season. 2021. We're going to be going through some sleepers. So we got a couple wide receivers, a couple running backs. Hopefully that'll help you win your fantasy league this season. So keep lock and load right here at the first four downs.
You already know the deal. We back.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back. As I mentioned in the preview, we're going to be going over some sleepers ahead of the 2021 fantasy season. We got some wide receivers, some running backs that should hopefully help you going into your drafts. So before we get to today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb, bell, comment. Let us know you want to hear about some other players. Comment. Let us know who you want to hear about. If you don't agree with our sleepers, that's fine. Thumb it down if you don't agree. I'll take that too. So let's get right into it. The first sleeper on the docket is going to be James Conner. James Conner, coming off the board as the RB 35. It's crazy to me, considering he should have a decent amount of value. Now, he joins the Arizona Cardinals on a one-year deal. Kenny Drake, he's no longer there. That's 240 carries gone. That's 10 touchdowns rushing gone. Chase Edmonds, I like him as a player. He's okay. I really don't see him as a true workhorse back here. I don't think that he's going to be able to carry 200-plus times and do all the receiving work. I just don't see it. So James Conner, I think, absolutely. Can you say that he's going to have 240 carries? Probably not. But somewhere in the realm of 180, maybe 200 carries here, I think is a possibility, giving Edmonds last season, 97 carries is what he had, which is the most in his career up to this point. Maybe 120 carries, 150 carries in this split. And Kyler Murray, if they want to have a successful season, they need James Conner to be effective and be able to be the goal line back. Kyler Murray, you saw, injured a little bit last year. He's a smaller frame. I talked about it in the divisionals. You want to keep him upright. You want to be able to have these running backs shoulder a load. So James Conner at the running back 35, getting him 10th, 12th round. This is absolutely a guy that could potentially be your RB2.
Yeah.
Or a bye week filler at best. Let's say he's your third running back. He's got crazy upside value, being drafted way too late. Obviously, once we get closer to camp and see how the dynamics are, you're going to see that possible change in the ADP. But as of right now, if you were drafting today, get some James Conner.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm getting him a lot of drafts. I think what it is like a slow game, and we're like really just like nobody knows what's really going on here. You know what I'm saying? It's like he silently signed to this team, right? And we've looked at Chase Edmonds in the past. Well, guess what happens? You know what I'm saying? Chase Edmonds has a role in this offense as the number 2 running back. Some guys are just number 2 running backs. What happened is we seen them trade for Kenyon Drake, right? 2 years in a row they had Kenyon Drake, and he had part of the share, but, he's never really broke out to be a guy that is going to be a dominant back in his backfield. Now, you go get a James Conner, like you mentioned earlier, we were talking, he's back with his running back coach that was there in Pittsburgh. So his comfortability should be, like, really, really good, That guy was a beast in those seasons, what I'm saying? He won me a championship, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like James Conner here, like you said, 237 carries relinquished by Kenyon Drake. This has to be going to James Conner.
Yeah.
And I as the preseason kicks off and we start to see these packages, I think that a lot of people will realize that James Conner is probably the 1A there and going to get an extremely great value for this guy that's going RB 35. Come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yep.
I think he could thrive in a split. We know the cancer problems that he's had in the back path, but with a guy like Chase Edmonds, he has not shown that he could do anything in the split. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. I'm loving me some James Conner in the back of drafts right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Draft James Conner. Huge sleeper.
Yeah, man. And another guy for me, that if we talking about splits, you talking about 1,140 yards, 22 touchdowns coming out of college with a 48% snap share on 157 carries. We're talking about no other than Javonte Williams. This is baby Nick Chubb, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? This guy is awesome. And keep in mind, he put together 300 yards on like 22 receptions too. You know what I'm saying? In that season with North Carolina last year, split with Michael Carter, of course. Now, we got Melvin Gordon coming off 215 carries last year where he did not see 1,000 yards. This is also Gordon's contract year. And there's a lot of talk of him maybe being traded. I think what we're going to see here is like, this is a Pat Shermer offense, right? So there's usually typically a bell cow there. I think when the preseason does happen, we see if Javonte Williams can handle this kind of carries, handle this kind of workload, and Gordon could probably be gone. I would draft him with caution, knowing that he'll probably get eased into the mix, but, I know he can produce under a split, so I'm taking him.
Yeah, what I like about Javonte Williams, he's also another guy's getting drafted somewhat late. Obviously, his ADP's rising over time, all the buzz about him. But right now, Melvin Gordon's falling. In worst case, you honestly go 0 RB or you draft 1 RB strategy early on. These are 2 guys that you might even pick up on your team, and guess what? One of them's going to work out.
And one of them might win your league.
Absolutely. The Denver Broncos got a great strength of schedule. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to bring some stability to the pass game. He's a little more accurate than Drew Lock. He may not be able to push the ball downfield. Guess what?
And also, he's a veteran. He knows how to manage the game and play the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah, absolutely. So Javonte Williams, huge value, a sleeper that, in my opinion, in the right system, 10+ touchdowns, could have 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
could finish in that probably RB 12 to 15 range. It's a possibility. So now let's look at some wide receivers.
Yeah.
First receiver I'm going to talk about, Deebo Samuel. Okay. Coming off the board, wide receiver 34. This is a guy coming into his sophomore year that was being projected as a 15 to 20 wide receiver. Now, he was coming off the foot injury that you knew. He hurt his hamstring. Even in an interview I recently listened to, he said himself that the foot hampered and kind of caused his hamstring. You tend to readjust what you're doing, over-adjust, and guess what? You hurt another part of your body. So, coming into this season, fully healthy, ready to make a name, in my opinion. Now he's got Brandon Ayuk, where people are just kind of giving him the wide receiver one role, where I think Deebo may not lead the team in receptions, but with the rushing ability that he's got, the gadget plays, the yak that he produces, period, is bar none outstanding. This is a guy being drafted at wide receiver 34.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Where it's like he's got wide receiver 20 upside. He really does. If he stays on the field and stays healthy. Trey Lance, if he sees the field, let's say, that's only going to make that offense probably more dynamic.
Yeah.
So Deebo Samuel's got huge upside where he's being drafted. And in my opinion, where Brandon Ayuk's being drafted, even a few spots ahead of Deebo Samuel, these are pretty much the same player. I really think by the end of the year, these players are going to be finished very close in the same numbers anyway.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think both of them have some upside, but Deebo, especially being drafted, it's crazy where his ADP is.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, especially if you give them the division and how strong that division is, they're going to need a certain dynamic, and knowing that they cannot stay healthy in years past, they need a guy that could line up everywhere in every position on the field and make these kind of plays. I think Ayuk could be fed a lot of work too. And Kittle, you know what I'm saying? Until Kittle goes out.
Right.
But, it is what it is. Deebo Samuel, he was immaculate. You know what I mean? You think about going to that Super Bowl year, and, I would love to get my hands on a lot of Deebo, and that's period.
Yeah.
Period, point blank. You know what I mean? This guy's pretty much a slash.
Absolutely. Coming off where he's being drafted, it's an obvious person for a bounce-back year, third-year breakout potential here. Huge sleeper. Especially right now.
Another guy for me, which I don't understand. His ADP right now is 86. Wide receiver 34 coming off the board. And he finished wide receiver 24 last year with the Carolina Panthers. This is no other than Robby Anderson. I really don't understand it. If you look at some of the metrics last year, he finished 12 in deep targets, number 15 in air yards, and number 6 in hog rate. You know what I mean? 9 receptions, almost 1,100 yards, 3 touchdowns, and number 5 in yak last year at the wide receiver position. So this is a guy who was going to play. And they have a quarterback change here. And the only time we've ever seen this quarterback very good is with Robby Anderson in the New York Jets. So Sam Darnold, I think they're going to go out here and try to prove something. You know what I mean? This is Darnold's last chance to be anything in this league.
Yeah.
And I think a familiar face along with, a CMC to take the edge off. Robby is primed to be in the top 24 players easily, I think, especially over DJ Moore. DJ Moore, in my opinion, is one of these guys who's going to bust. I'm sorry. Look how they utilized Jamison Crowder last year. You know what I mean? I think Robby's going to fit this role, period, in the slot game. So, I really like Robby a lot in a lot of drafts. They got him projected right, but they don't have him in the right place. You know what I'm saying? I mean, given. You look at some of these wide receivers, you're like, who can I take off the board? Who can I draft him over? But honestly, knowing that he's going to have this target, Sam Darnold, I think he's going to get fed the most. to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Take Robby Anderson all day long. This is another guy, in my opinion, who's not only a sleeper, but can possibly win your flex, period.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about it, he probably has, in my opinion, even almost more value than DJ Moore.
Yeah.
He runs most of his, ran the most routes for Carolina Panthers out of the slot last season. What happened with Sam Darnold? New York Jets, Jameson Crowder. Essentially, that was it, you know? So it's like, I think Robby Anderson has some huge success here. He's already into that system. Carolina's he's coming off a career year. Absolutely a steal and a huge sleeper. A guy that can... So the next wide receiver we're going to talk about, Russell Gage. Now this is a little bit of a stretch. I get it. Deep draft. Wide receiver 62. That's what he's projected right now. Last season.
62.
Last season finished as a wide receiver 37 on the Atlanta Falcons in the second half of the season through weeks 11 to 17. That's where we really picked it up. 3 touchdowns, 400 receiving yards. Julio Jones missed a lot of those games. Only truly played in one full game, healthy through that back half stretch. Julio's gone. Now, yes, do I expect Russell Gage to take a huge leap here? No, not necessarily. But he already finished as the wide receiver 37 last year, over 700 yards. He had 109 targets, finished with 70 receptions. This is a guy that this season could easily get 120 to 130 targets here in this offense. That's more than reasonable, considering he finished with 110 last year. Now, yes, Kyle Pitts, I get it, but Julio's gone. I know Matt Ryan has struggled without Julio Jones. I absolutely get it. But guess what? They're going to have to throw the ball. Atlanta Falcons, most pass attempts in the league last year. Matt Ryan, I want to say over 4,500 yards passing. Russell Gage has got some value here. And even if Calvin Ridley, who has missed some games over his career too, albeit I think Calvin Ridley's going to have a huge season this year, but Russell Gage is an option that could potentially push that probably 900-yard mark. You're looking at 5 to 6 touchdowns. He was number 9 with 17 red zone targets. Russell Gage has a lot of value that no one is talking about, no one is picking. In a 12-man league, he's definitely getting on my roster. In a 10-man, I get it. You know, sometimes people do stupid things and draft stupid players. You might end up with teams stacked with players. I get it.
Yeah.
But Russell Gage is definitely an option in a deeper league that could potentially be a bye-week filler, wide receiver 4 type option.
Yeah, I could really see that. And, you know, there's a lot of speculation about Kyle Pitts and what he could potentially do. Hey, you know what? He might be a great athlete, but we never see none of these guys, these tight ends come in the league and just beast it out. They talking about he's going to beat Mike Dick's touchdown, 12 touchdowns in the rookie season. I just don't really see that happening. He is a great dynamic, but Russell Gage has already been there. He's already a proven target for a team that's going to be behind in a lot of games. You know what I mean? Look at that division. And I think, you know, Jameis and those guys, they're going to surprise a lot of people. I don't think their production is going to slip that much. So, you know, you look at Atlanta, they're going to be throwing the football a lot.
Yep.
Who's their running back?
Mike Davis.
RB2.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Look to get Russell Gage as a new guy coming in and being a fantasy hero. You know? Speaking of fantasy heroes, Antonio Brown, bar none, Mr. Father Time, along with Tom Brady. Man, you know, I think this is an absolute steal. You know what I'm saying? You look at what he did in 8 games, and given he started slow, you know what I mean? He really did start slow. I mean, they had to figure that out. They got Godwin and Mike Evans over there on those corners, you know what I'm saying? But Antonio Brown finished with 62 receptions with 483 yards and 4 touchdowns. That would have put him on pace for 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, which would ultimately leave him wide receiver 16.
Yeah.
With Godwin and Mike Evans on the field. So, you know, I think there's a lot to be had here. You know, they do have a tougher strength of schedule, but in positional players and great players like this, I don't think that it's going to bother that team that much, being that how you going to guard all 3 of them?
Yeah.
It is very hard. You know what I mean? I think these touchdowns are going to be a given, and go get you some AB.
Yeah, and
you know
considering
where
he's being drafted right now,
I'm telling you,
it's a disgrace.
ADP 112, wide receiver 42.
Yeah, that's a disgrace.
A guy that can finish the wide receiver 16 or higher. This is Antonio Brown, people. Go get him.
So that's it. Some sleepers that we're going to be giving you for the 2020 NFL season. Hopefully you crush your leagues. We got lots more information to come. Yeah. So once again, like the video, subscribe, share, thumb, bell, comment. You don't like it, that's fine. Tell us what you think. Ask us for some players. That's fine. I'll comment back and tell you how we feel. So, for the first 4 downs, been B. Scott. Also,
Godzilla.
And we out.
Yeah.